Hey guys, I'm Pat, and in this video I will be explaining handling Game Pass purchases in your scripts on Roblox Studio. Right now I just have a screen UI with a text button in it, and then I have a local script. And what we're going to do is we're going to prompt the user to buy a Game Pass when they click the button. So in order to do this, we're going to need Marketplace service first. So we'll go ahead and get Marketplace service. And we're also going to need a player service because we're also going to need to know the local player or the player instance that we want to prompt the product for. So we'll just do this so I have players.local player because it's a local script. If I can spell. And we'll listen on the script's parent, which is the text button. Mouse button one click event, which fires when the button's clicked. And then all we're going to do is we're going to go to Marketplace service. I think I have, no, I don't have my ID. Let me get the ID. So we're also going to need our Game Pass ID. I'm not really going to go over like creating a Game Pass here. I can't even like script right now. But basically, you just go to the Create tab, pick your game, create a pass, give it an ID image, and you can go and configure it to set it to be on sale, and then pick a price, whatever. And if you want, you can go to the actual page with the Game Pass and delete it from your inventory, which will allow you to like buy it in game to test your script kind of thing. So I've already done that because once you create it, it's automatically in your inventory. So usually you can delete it from your inventory so you can test it easier, and I already did that. So what I'm going to do now is prompt Game Pass purchase, pretty self-explanatory. And then all we gotta do is, it tells you right here, is give it the player instance and the Game Pass ID. So what we'll do is we'll give it our local player, which is the player we want to prompt the purchase for, right? And then we'll give it the ID of the Game Pass that we want to prompt them to purchase. So I'll go ahead and press play now, and once I do that and I click this, third-party item sales have been disabled for displays. Alright, whatever. So I'll go ahead and go back to the game, go to game settings, I believe it's under security, and allow third-party sales. Alright, we don't care. Don't worry, I'm a pro scripter, guys. We don't gotta worry about third-party attacks. Alright, so I'm going to click button, and now it prompts me to purchase Dewoke. You can see very official Game Pass right there. So I'm not going to purchase it right now because I want to not own it for the next part. So now what I'm going to do is go over how to detect the user actually buying the Game Pass in-game. Now previously, I don't know like when they actually added this, but a while ago, I remember when you bought a Game Pass in game, you'd have to rejoin the game because there's no way of detecting like if a player actually bought it in game, or the scripter is usually just too lazy to actually add it in. So if you bought it in game, like it'll manage it, it'll still work. So now there's a way at least to like, there's an event, which means I'm not going to be using that. There's an event for detecting a user buying a Game Pass. So what we'll do is do Marketplace service and prompt Game Pass purchase finish, and it even tells you what happens, and we'll connect it to a function. And our function will have three parameters, which are pretty important. You can use this event on the server as well, which really it probably should be in most cases. I will probably switch it over to the server later in this video or something, but for now we got the player instance, which is the player that purchased it, right? Since they're most likely going to be in the game theoretically. And then we got the Game Pass ID that they purchased, and then it tells you whether or not they did actually successfully purchase it. So this will be true if they bought it and they paid the Robux, like it took the Robux and they now own a Game Pass. And it'll be false if they did something like hit the cancel button, or there's some kind of error or something like that, then this will be false. So we'll get our player. Obviously this is an order, right? The parameter list is always an order. And we'll do Game Pass ID, and then we'll also do is purchased. And now what we'll do is we'll hit enter, and it will give us this end here, right? You hit enter after this parenthesis and it kind of fills in the rest for you, right? Now what I do is we'll check to see if it is purchased, and we'll do else. So if it is purchased, then I don't actually have anything to do, so we'll just print purchased Game Pass, and we'll give it the Game Pass ID, and did not purchase. Alright, so I'll go ahead and test it now, and I'll view the output as well. But this is the if I can speak, test purchase. You can see my script didn't work. Oh no, it did. It was a little delayed. I didn't spell Game Pass correctly. Really good spelling, you can see. I forgot to oh, okay, it doesn't actually add it to my inventory, so that's pretty useful. And now if I hit cancel, you'll see it did not purchase Game Pass. So if you wanted to, you could actually make it like infinitely loop. And something else I can also show you is Marketplace servers has like an event for I don't know if it does actually have it. I thought Game Pass service might, or Marketplace service might have a method to get like all of the Game Pass's information through its ID, but I don't remember what it's called. I'll see if I can find it real quick. These are all the default instance methods. Player owns asset, owns bundle, owns player subscribes, find first shot. Alright, whatever. I guess it doesn't have that. I thought it did, but whatever. So, next thing I'm going to do is on the server script, I'm going to have a server script. So say you have a script where you want to do something like give a player a tool, like some kind of special tool through a Game Pass. Very common script, right? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go to Toolbox. I'm just going to quickly find a cool tool. This sword, we can use the default linked sword. We can add it to the starter pack, but what we're actually going to do is put in server storage. And this will allow us to clone it from server storage and give it to a player if they own the specified Game Pass like this, right? So we'll handle all of our Game Pass, pretty much our Game Pass inside of the script. So what we'll do is we'll detect if a player joins the game and they own the Game Pass, then we'll give them the sword. And we'll also detect if a player buys the sword or buys the Game Pass while in game, we'll give them a sword. This is kind of the script I wanted you guys to make on your own. How much? We got 8 minutes left. This is a short ass video. Alright, whatever. I'll actually just go over detecting how if a user owns something when they join the game, and then for the rest of the video, like I'll have you make your own script where you had to make like the tool, like give them the tool through the Game Pass, and I'll show you like a solution later, right? So what we're gonna need is player service. I don't know why I got rid of it. I did actually need it. Game get service, and we'll get players, and players player added fires when a player joins the game, and also give us a player instance, which is important, right? And then what we'll do if player, or actually marketplace service, I don't know what happened. User owns Game Pass async, so it returns true if the player owns the Game Pass with the ID that they were given. So you can see it actually takes the user ID and the Game Pass ID, so it doesn't take the player instance, but it takes their ID instead, which is actually kind of useful because you can check to see if a player owns a Game Pass without them actually being in the game, right? And we're not doing players. We're using player because that's the player that joined the game in this case, right? And we'll do their user ID, and then what we'll do is we'll check with the Game Pass ID, which I need from here. And not this. So we'll check to see if the player owns it, and obviously this will return true if they do, false if they don't. So we'll just put it inside of our condition for if statement. No need to store it in a variable, really, because we're not checking it multiple times. and we'll print that they own it if they do, and print that they don't if they don't. Alright, so 2 simple prints, and we'll go ahead and play it, see what prints. Obviously, we'll see, we kind of know, right? User does not own Game Pass, because we did a test purchase, so we don't officially own it in our inventory. It doesn't go into our inventory if we do like a test purchase. But you can see user does not own Game Pass, right? So what we can do is we can use this to pretty much give a player a sword when they join the game. Now, something that I haven't really gone over in any of my previous videos is how to give a player a sword when they die. So like, a player's inventory is separate from like the tools that they're given when they respawn. So there's actually 2 things in a player. There's player.inventory, right? Player.inventory. Is it not gonna autofill for me? Okay, apparently it won't. But and there's also player.startergear, which also isn't gonna autofill. But starter gear is pretty much tools that a player gets whenever they die. So if they die and they have tools in their starter gear, they'll be given that tool on respawn. So it's pretty useful for like a Game Pass tool, because you can pretty much permanently give it to them while they're in game, not just for like 1 life, right? So that's kind of like my way of helping you if you want to make this script on your own. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to pretty much make it so when they buy the Game Pass, they'll get the sword. They'll get it when they're in game, and they'll also get it when they join the game. And when they die, obviously they should keep the sword as well. So go ahead and try and make that, and I'll show you how to make that. I'll show you how to make like the solution in just a few seconds, but if you want, you can try and make it on your own, which is always a good thing, to try and make things on your own. So I'm going to go over trying making it now. So we're actually going to need like the same thing I had before with the if statement, and instead of I'm actually going to make a reference to server storage, because that's where our sword is stored, right? Local inventory sword. We're gonna actually need 2 sword clones, one for the player's inventory and one for their starter gear. So I'm gonna clone it 2 times actually. So what I'm gonna do is server storage dot sword. I don't remember its name. Classic sword, and we'll clone it. And then we'll also do this another time called starters or gear sword. I'll just call it gear sword. So now we have 2 clones, and one of them is going to go into the player's inventory. So inventory sword dot parent equals player dot inventory, and then we'll also do gear sword equals player dot starter gear. So now that we did that, it'll parent it to their inventory or starter gear if they own the Game Pass when they join the game. If they don't, then obviously it won't give it to them. Now, say if they buy it while in the game, we're gonna want to detect that. So we'll use marketplace service that prompt Game Pass purchase finished, connect it to a function, and we'll get our player. We'll get the Game Pass ID, and we'll get whether or not they purchased it successful. If successful, which means that they did successfully buy the Game Pass, then what we'll do is we'll check the Game Pass ID in here actually, because we want to make sure that it's the Game Pass that gives them the sword, right? So if Game Pass ID, and I'll actually change this to sword ID pretty much, so that way we know which Game Pass that's for. So if Game Pass ID equals sword ID, then we will go ahead and do the same thing that we did up here. We could even have a function for this, because this is actually repetitive code. You see, this is one script where we use the same code 2 times. So this is actually a really good instance to clean up your code with a function. So we'll do local function, and what we'll call it is basically give sword. And what we'll need to use in the parameter is a player, because it'll need to know which player to give the sword to. Now all you just do is take this code and paste it into here, and now we can just call give sword inside of our if statement, which actually looks a lot cleaner, right? as well as it cuts down on lines in our script, because now we don't have to repeat this multiple times. We just have to repeat this, which is just one extra line. And overall, it's going to be net loss on lines of code, right? So it cleans up our script a little bit. We passed a player as the parameter because we need to know which player, and then we can just use that player pretty much to parent the sword to their inventory or their starter gear. And then inside of our events down here, we just passed a player in our argument list, right? So obviously you don't have to do it that way. I kind of showed you how to do it before without a function, but you know, it makes your code cleaner, whatever. So I'm gonna go ahead and buy the Game Pass while in game. Honestly, when I joined the game, I didn't own it, so it says user owns Game Pass. Oh, alright, so my print statement's kind of backwards there, but you get the idea, right? So once I buy it, you'll see your purchase of debug was successful, and we get an error because that's pretty cool. Inventory is now a valid player. So we'll go ahead and players ghost, and we'll see what the error is. Oh, backpack. Why did I think it was called inventory? Alright, it's okay, guys. I'm a little delusional today. So we're gonna parent it to their backpack, not their inventory. Now we'll go ahead and try it. That's also a benefit. If you have an error in your code, you can see now I just have to fix it in one spot instead of having to take it and like copy and paste it to fix it everywhere, right? It makes it a lot easier to fix my code, right? So I'll go ahead and try and buy it, see okay, and after a little bit, I get my sword. Pretty cool, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reset and see if I keep the sword when I respawn, which theoretically I should. And I didn't, because I must have done something wrong. I don't even remember ever using starter gear, honestly, so I'm not even sure how it works. Unlike it should be working, I believe. Oh, I forgot to parent it. I don't know why I did that. Alright, so I forgot to actually do like the dot parent part. It's alright, we can try it again. Button, purchase, and I'm gonna go and speed it up a little bit. Okay, got the sword, cool. Reset. And I still got this sword. So that's really an easy way to add tools into your game to make it so like a player could buy a game pass and get like a special tool. Obviously you can do a bunch of different things with game passes, but it's just an example to kind of get you started with game passes to show you how they work, really, right? So that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Finally a semi-short video compared to my like previous videos that have been kind of long, but you know, it is how it is. I kind of try and explain everything the best way I can without like making a video like unbelievably short and leaving things out, but hopefully this was useful. Thanks for watching. See you guys.